Welcome to Your Daily Writing Habit, episode number 974. If you are writing a book or thinking about it, or maybe you've started writing a book but you need some help getting it done, you are in the right place. Happy Sunday, everyone. I am your host, Christine Whitmarsh. If you're looking for me online, look for Christine Inc., like that stuff we write with. Each day I'm sharing with you the writing habits I've learned over my 20 years as a ghostwriter, book coach, and author. I have found that 3 things in particular have a huge impact on your success as an author, and they can even turn a quote-unquote non-author into a published one. Those 3 things are writing fundamentals, productivity, and mindset habits. And once again, happy Sunday, everyone. As we do every Sunday here on the show, it is Sunday story time, where I grab a book off my bookshelf, whether it's one of my own books, a client book, or a book that has positively impacted me in some way. I read you an excerpt or a story from that book, followed by some sort of learning question or activity so you can apply the information to your own work. And today I have selected a book I'm currently reading that is positively impacting me. It is called Think Again: The Power of Knowing What You Don't Know by Adam Grant. And I only recently started reading this book, but it has already, like I said, impacted me positively, particularly Adam's message early on in the book about our innate tendencies as humans to approach decision-making as, and I quote him, preachers, prosecutors, and politicians. Here is more on that for today's Sunday Storytime featured excerpt. Imagine you have a family friend who's a financial advisor, and he recommends investing in a retirement fund that isn't in your employer's plan. You have another friend who's fairly knowledgeable about investing, and he tells you that this fund is risky. What would you do? When a man named Stephen Greenspan found himself in that situation, he decided to weigh his skeptical friend's warning against the data available. His sister had been investing in the fund for several years, and she was pleased with the results. A number of her friends had been too. Although the returns weren't extraordinary, they were consistently in the double digits. The financial advisor was enough of a believer that he had invested his own money in the fund. Armed with that information, Greenspan decided to go forward. He made a bold move, investing nearly a third of his retirement savings in the fund. Before long, he learned that his portfolio had grown by 25%. Then, he lost it all overnight when the fund collapsed. It was the Ponzi scheme managed by Bernie Madoff. 2 decades ago, my colleague Phil Tetlock discovered something peculiar. As we think and talk, we often slip into the mindsets of 3 different professions: preachers, prosecutors, and politicians. In each of these modes, we take on a particular identity and use a distinct set of tools. We go into preacher mode when our sacred beliefs are in jeopardy. We deliver sermons to protect and promote our ideals. We enter prosecutor mode when we recognize flaws in other people's reasoning. We marshal arguments to prove them wrong and win our case. We shift into politician mode when we're seeking to win over an audience. We campaign and lobby for the approval of our constituents. The risk is that we become so wrapped up in preaching that we're right, prosecuting others who are wrong, and politicking for support that we don't bother to rethink our own views. When Stephen Greenspan and his sister made the choice to invest with Bernie Madoff, it wasn't because they relied on just one of those mental tools. All 3 modes together contributed to their ill-fated decision. When his sister told him about the money she and her friends had made, she was preaching about the merits of the fund. Her confidence led Greenspan to prosecute the friend who warned him against investing, deeming the friend guilty of quote-unquote knee-jerk cynicism. Greenspan was in politician mode when he let his desire for approval sway him toward a yes. The financial advisor was a family friend whom he liked and wanted to please. Any of us could have fallen into those traps. Greenspan says that he should have known better, though, because he happens to be an expert on gullibility. When he decided to go ahead with the investment, he had almost finished writing a book on why we get duped. Looking back, he wishes he had approached the decision with a different set of tools. He might have analyzed the fund's strategy more systematically instead of simply trusting in the results. He could have sought out more perspectives from credible sources. He would have experimented with investing smaller amounts over a longer period of time before gambling so much of his life's savings. That would have put him in the mode of a scientist. And that is, again, an excerpt from a fantastic book I'm currently reading called Think Again, The Power of Knowing What You Don't Know by Adam Grant. And kind of an assignment this week for you based on this. I would recommend that you do what I did immediately after reading this part of the book, even early on, and start applying this thinking to your decisions, especially the important ones. Train yourself to pause and ask yourself, am I being a preacher, prosecutor, or politician? Am I talking myself into something to save face or look good to others or for some other reason? Of course, I recommend reading this entire book to get the full context of the conversation about preachers and prosecutors and politicians. But this question, this self-awareness check in your decision-making, is definitely a good start to help you start rethinking things. Thank you for joining me here on Your Daily Writing Habit, where I am helping you write and finish writing an awesome book. And be sure and drop by my Inc. Authors group on Facebook for motivation, accountability, book writing, publishing, resources, and more. And as always, I put the link to the Sunday Storytime featured book, like today's, in the show notes. Always a good idea to check the show notes. I always try to put a lot of information in there to talk about the things that we talked about in the show today and give you more support to write your book. Until tomorrow, happy writing.